Hello students, this is Arshad Bhutta, CMA and ACCA. Uh, the topic which we are going to discuss today, that is AS 606, revenue from contracts with customers. So we are talking in the context of US GAAP. Uh, I will discuss later on, but it is equally useful for the students those are supposed to learn IFRS 15 revenues from contracts with customers. The reason I will discuss later on. Let's start with what is the objective of today's session. Today we are supposed to discuss what is the background of this ASC. And then we will discuss about what is the scope of this ASC. Then we will discuss relevant definitions. Then we will discuss the 5 steps model framework. Then we will discuss presentation in financial statements. Then we will discuss special revenue recognition situations like consignment goods and etc. Then we will discuss some numerical questions. These are the past exam retired question of CMA exam. But I hope that this session is equally useful for CPA students, for CA Pakistan students, for ACCA students, and for ACMA Pakistan students, or any other student who is looking to learn about IFRS 15 or ASC 606. What is the background? Uh, in May 2014, the Financial Accounting Standard Board, FASB, which is the standard setting body and regulatory body of US GAAPs, and International Accounting Standard Board, IASB, which is the standard setting body for IFRS, issued substantially convert final standard on revenue recognition. So this is standard which is developed with the collaboration of both bodies. These final standards were the culmination of the joint project between the boards that spent many years. It's a joint effort of both boards for a long time period, and like in 2014, accounting standard updates revenue from contract with customer was first and public. What is the objective of this standard is to provide a robust framework for addressing revenue recognition issues. Previously, both FASB and IASB both have a different standards to discuss different, to recognize different type of revenues, and that was based on the ideology of risk and returns. Now, this ASC 606, which is also IFRS 15, this is based on the concept of control. And upon its effective date, replace almost all pre-existing revenue recognition guidance in current US GAAPs. So it will replace all previous guidance, or you can say standards. So which is included industry-specific guidance and Securities and Exchange Commission staff accounting bulletins for revenue recognition. So it will replace all those, and this is the uniform method to recognize every sort of revenue. So this is the joint effort of IASB, International Accounting Standard Board, and Financial Accounting Standard Board. But the code which is used by the IASB, that is IFRS 15. So what is the scope of this ASC? ASC 606 applies to all customer contracts, applies to all customer concepts except when any other ASC is giving the guidance which is a specific law, like for leases, insurance contracts, financial instruments, guarantees, and non-monetary exchanges. So these are the areas, those will be covered by their specific ASCs, but for all other customer contracts, AS 606 is applicable. Definitions. First of all, what is contract? Contract is an agreement between two or more parties that creates enforceable rights and obligations. So this is an agreement. To create a contract, there are three major essentials. Like there should be an offer and acceptance, there should be a consideration, and the capacities of the parties. Uh, One party is offering the thing, other party is accepting. Consideration means there is something in return, and capacity of the party that they are competent enough to enter in a contract. Like they should not be a minor, they should not be an unsound mind, there should be a no coercion or undue influence. In that case, they are not competent enough to enter into the contract. Then customer, a party that has contracted. Now, which party which has contracted with an entity to obtain goods or services? If that party is contracted for what? To get some goods or services, which is the output, which is the uh, product of the other entity in their ordinary activities, but there must be an element of consideration. As I discussed earlier, what is consideration? Something in exchange. There is a requirement that consideration must be existed. It's not required that that should be sufficient. But if the contract parties are competent enough, like for instance, I will elaborate the consideration concept. Let's assume I have car and I'm contracting with customer with Mr. B that I can give you it for $100. Now, definitely the apparent value of uh, car is not $100, but if I am competent enough, I am major, I'm not unsound mind, there is no coercion or undue influence, and I'm entering into a contract with that party with my free consent that uh, uh, I'm agreed to sell my car for $100, then there is a consideration. So consideration is something in exchange. It is not mandatory that it must have to be sufficient, appropriate. Okay. So income. Income is an increase in economic benefit for the provision of what? Your uh, goods or services, which could be in the form of an inflow of an asset or an increase in asset, or it could be a decrease in your liability. And through that income, overall, the residual right of shareholders will increase. It means equity will increase. Other than what, if there would be any contribution from the shareholders, and due to that equity is increased, you will not consider it as an income. Income is the increase in economic benefit in the form of increase in asset or decrease in liability due to the provision of goods or services, uh, through which your equity will increase, but without the contribution from shareholders. Those are also called equity participants. Performance obligation, a promise in a contract with the customer to transfer to the customer either this is specific thing, goods or services. It could be one good or one service, or it could be bundle of goods or services that is distinct, separatable from others, or a series of distinct goods or services that are substantially the same and that have the same pattern of transfer to the customer. So it could be on a series of services, like I could elaborate it with the example of like you got the service from the cleaning company to clean your office on daily basis for, let's say, for 2 years. So in that case, that is a series of service. Then revenue. which is income arising from the course of an entity's ordinary activities, means you are providing your goods or services. Transaction price, the amount of consideration. Again, I will reiterate that it is not necessary that your consideration should be appropriate. There should be a sufficient. You have a consideration, that's enough, to which an entity expects to be entitled in exchange for transferring promised goods or services to a customer, excluding amount collected on behalf of third party. So it is a amount of consideration which you are expecting against this provision of your goods or services from your customer. But if you are accepting that on the behalf of third party, then that is not your transaction price, which could be the case in the form of consignment. We will discuss later on. Then unconditional contract assets. Unconditional right to receive consideration because the company has satisfied its performance obligation to the customer. When you have satisfied your performance obligation and you have a right to receive something from your customer, that is called unconditional contract. Means you have fulfilled all the obligations, those are part of your contract, and you have recognized this as a revenue. So that unconditional contract right which you have will be recorded in your books of accounts as receivable. Then conditional contract asset. Now, conditional right to receive consideration. Now here you have some condition which you have to fulfill. Because the companies has satisfied some of the performance obligations, but and recognize revenue for performance obligation that are satisfied. But there is a possibility that you may have to satisfy another performance obligation before it can invoice to the customer. So in first case, you have performed all performance obligations. You have done all responsibilities on your end. You have completed everything. But under second, conditional contract assets, you have satisfied some obligations, but you are supposed to satisfy some other obligations before you will send an invoice to your client. Should be reported in the balance sheet as contract asset. So this will be recognized as asset, but the title would be contract asset and here title would be receivables. Then contract liabilities. It is arises when you don't have fulfilled your performance obligations, and before the fulfillment of performance obligation, you have received consideration in advance, like token payment you received for something. You have contracted with your customer to build a villa for him and you have received token money of say 10%. Now that is your contract liabilities. What is 5-step model? These are the 5 steps. When all 5 steps will be accomplished, then you will recognize your revenue in your books of accounts. First of all, identify the contract with the customer. Number one, what you will do? Identify the contract with the customer. We will discuss one by one later on. First of all, I'm just giving you the details of those 5 steps. Then identify the separate performance obligation in the contract. Then determine the transaction price of the contract. Then allocate the transaction price to the separate performance obligations. Those are part of your contract. Then recognize revenue when the entity satisfies a performance obligation. Revenue will be recognized when entity have satisfied the performance obligations. Let's start with the first one. Identify the contract. As we have discussed, contract is an agreement between the seller and the buyer to provide goods or services in exchange for consideration. So seller is providing goods or services to whom? To buyer. Seller is providing to whom? To buyer. Against what? The consideration, which could be in the form of money, which could be in the form of any other asset, etc. Then there is a possibility that contract could be oral, could be written, could be implicit, and could be in the form of customary practices. So the terms of the contract can be determined through oral agreement, through written agreement, but it is recommended that contract should be in a written form to enforce it in the court of law. It could be implicit understanding between buyer and seller. This is what by their previous by the pattern of their previous transactions between each other. Okay. And customary practice, what is the pattern, what is the custom, what is the previous methodology of the seller to deal with all sort of customers. So the distinction between implicit and customary is, implicit is with what the understanding from your previous pattern is with your same customer, and customary practices is with what you are doing with your all customers. Then there are some additional criteria, we will discuss them. Like there must be a commercial substance. This is important, this is protective clause. How we should have to elaborate this. Commercial substance. I would elaborate this with one example. This is say radio A and this is radio B. Both are radio channels. At the same time, let's assume at 8 a.m. morning, radio A is advertising about radio B and radio B is advertising about radio A. Even though both are paying cost to each other, but the objective is to promote the businesses of each other. So here they don't have commercial substance, they don't have intent to earn something. But on the other side, if this is radio program A and this is newspaper B, this is newspaper B and this is radio program A. Radio program A is running the ad about newspaper B and newspaper B is running the ad about radio A. In that case, there is a commercial substance because the audience of both A and B are separate. Their timing is separate. So there is a possibility that A may earn something additional by having advertisement in newspaper B, and newspaper B may earn by having advertisement in radio program of radio channel of A. So in that case, there is a commercial substance. Then commitment by the parties, legality, they are entering for the legal transaction. It, like if you are saying that I'm entering with a contract with your customer A for the supply of illegal goods, like through illegal channel like smuggling, in that case, indeed, it's not a legality. They are not entering in a legal transaction. So both parties' commitment must have to be that they are entering in a legal transaction. Then identify the rights of the parties. In your contract, it must be clearly elaborated that what are the rights of the buyer and what are the rights of the seller. Payment terms are identified. It's not necessary that it must be fixed. It could be on a pattern of installments, but you must have to be identified when your payment will occur, then collection is probable. Probability to receive the money is higher. There is no specific guidance, but it is, you can say like 80 to 60%, but you can say 80 to, sorry, 90%, but you can say that if it is chances of occurrence of anything is more than chances of non-occurrence, that is called probable. So if these additional criteria will be met, then you will see that there is a contract existed. Now, entity must evaluate all of goods or services promised in a contract to determine whether there is a separate performance obligation or not. Here, what we are going to discuss is there is a separate performance obligation or single performance obligation. How many obligations do we have in the product? One or two. I will elaborate or more with one example. Is the product is distinct? It is separable or not? Can it be sold separately? Separable means can it be sold separately or not? Uh, are you transferring an individual product or separate products? It is individual product. One by one you are transferring, or you are transferring all the products in a bundle. So these are the areas which we have to address to identify how many performance obligations we have in a contract. Let's elaborate with this with two examples. One is about coffee and bagel. Let's assume you are going to the coffee shop at a breakfast time and you offered them uh, that kindly give me 2 bagel and 1 coffee. And you are getting that in the form of bundle for say $10. Now there is a one contract, parties, capacity, etc. valid, everything between buyer, customer and seller, coffee shop. But there are two distinct products. One is bagel, this one is bagel, and the other product is coffee. And these are separable because coffee shop holder can sold both the things separately. So this is one contract, but have two separate and independent product obligations. So here there are two performance obligations. And in second case, this is latte coffee. Here you have two ingredients. One is this one, which is milk, and the second one is coffee. Here, products are interdependents, not independents, because when you are asking for latte coffee, it is not separable. You are supposed to give milk and coffee together. So it cannot be separable. So in this case, here we have single performance obligations because both products are interrelated, interdependence. Even though there are two products, but it's a single performance obligation. So our performance obligation is single here. We have one performance obligation in this case. So this is, we have to identify how many performance obligations we have in our contract. Then determine the transaction price. First case is very easy, like as I discussed earlier in these two examples. Let's assume you are going to the coffee shop and asking them for latte and you are paying $5. transaction is done. There is a possibility that you may have deferred payments. In that case, like this is year one, this is year two, this is year three, and this is year four. So what you will do, you will calculate the value of these at year 0 2 days time by discounting all the values which you have on these uh, timings to calculate the present value. So that would be your transaction price, the present value of future all installments. Then there is a possibility that you may have variable considerations. Here consideration is not fixed. You may are offering discounts, concessions, or rebates. Over there, we have to calculate expected values or most likely amount to determine the value of that. Let's discuss this example. This is about construction company and that has promised to construct this building, and which is like warehouse for $200,000, and there is a bonus of $100,000 which will be paid if uh, the project is completed within given time period. But if it will be 1 week delayed, then 5% per week there would be deduction in the amount of bonus. So what is the expectation that 70% is a probability that contract will be completed on due date? 20%, beg a pardon, this is percentage. Probability that the contract will complete in 1 week delay, and then 10% probability that contract will be completed within 2 weeks delay. So we have two options to calculate the revenue. First method is expected value method. Under this method, like 300,000 total, 200,000 basic price and 100,000 bonus you will receive in total, and its probability is 70%. So your figure would be 210,000. Then there is another possibility that 20% is probability that it will be 1 week delay. In that case, there is a 5% deduction in your bonus amount. So 100,000 times 95% you will receive, in that case 95,000. So 95,000 of bonus plus 200,000 of original amount, the total which you will receive, that would be 295,000, and its probability is how much you will receive, that 20%. So let's do the calculation. 295 times 20% equals to 59,000. So 59,000 you is the expected value of second probability. Then third probability is 10%. In that case, what you will receive 100,000 times 90%, because for every week 5% is a deduction, then it's 90,000. So in that case, it is 90,000 times 10% is equal to 9,000. So your total figure would be sum of these three. So 59 plus 210 plus 9 equals to 278,000. So this amount will be recognized as revenue. But in the other case, most likely amount, you will recognize the whole amount because higher probability is 75%. So in that case, you will go with the best outcome. So these are the two options which you can use for when you have variable considerations. Okay. Now, allocate the transaction price to separate performance obligations. Transaction price should be allocated to the separate performance obligation in proportion to the standalone price of each element. What is standalone price? Like, let's assume there are 3 performance obligations or 4 performance obligations in your one contract. In that case, what would be the individual price of every performance obligation? You will calculate the proportion of that individual price to allocate the total amount of the price to different performance obligations. This is called standalone price proportion. Here is an example to discuss. Let's assume you have uh, got a cell phone and a cellular connection for 2 years, or you buy a burger. In both scenarios, I will discuss with you the cases. First of all, this is about cell phone and cellular connection. Let's assume this is the company tower, which is this is the company. Uh, this is the company, and this is the company tower, and these two persons are Walaikum Assalam. आओ 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 डॉक्टर साहब घारी घारी आ जी hello sorry for interruption like that guy bought a cell phone which is like that guy bought a cell phone from a company which is also giving the cellular services for 2 years. In that case, the cell phone and cellular services which he is getting, these are two standalone agreements. There could be for everyone. For instance, let's assume cellular services for 1 year are can be offered in $1,000. It means for 2 years it is $2,000, and cell phone price is $3,000. So standalone prices of every contract is 2,000 and 3,000. It should be 5,000. Say they got offer from the cellular company for 2 year cellular services connections and cell phone for 2,500. In that case, you will, this is your transaction price. You will allocate to each segment that transaction price according to their standalone price ratios. For instance, 2,000 divided by 5,000 times 2,500, which is 40%, equal to 1,000, and then 3,000 divided by 5,000 times 2500 equals to 1500. So this is for cell phone, and this is for cellular services. Okay, so in this way we will allocate on the total transaction price to every component on standalone prices. Then I'm going to discuss with you one example regarding you got a burger. In that case, there are three components in your burger offer. One is burger, this one is fries, and one is soft drink. For instance, you went to Burger King and Burger King offered you this in $5. This is a combo offer. Individually, let's assume soft drink for $2, fries for $5, and burger fries for $3, burger for $5. So standalone prices would be 10. So according to that ratio, you will allocate this price. So it would be 1 here, 1.5 here, and 2.5 here. So in this way, you will allocate the transaction price to separate performance obligations. When goods or services are not sold separately and you can't ascertain the standalone price, in this case, you will allocate on reasonable approach basis. First method is adjust market assessment approach. Under adjusted market assessment approach, referring to the price from the company competitors, if you are providing the product or service which is unique, you are not previously offering, then you will compare it with by having market assessment with your competitors if they are offering the same type of goods or services. Then expected cost plus market approach. In this approach, you will calculate the cost of all provision of all goods or services and in your bundle, and then you will add your appropriate profit margin. In third case, residual approach. If from your all performance obligations like the product or services which you have in a bundle, if you can identify any standalone price for any product or service, then you will identify that, and for remaining you will allocate the residual amount, the remaining which is like you can't identify to your performance obligation, that you will allocate your remaining to your remaining performance obligations. So this is the way when you don't have standalone prices for every performance obligation in your contract. Now recognize the revenue when each separate obligation is satisfied. When satisfaction occurred, this is important. It could be in point in time, or it could be at point over time. Point in time means there would be one time at which you will transfer your goods or services. Let's assume, again, I will refer you towards that burger example. You paid $5 to burger shop holder and you got the burger from there. That is point in time, one time. Point over time, when you have a series of services or goods for a long time period, over there, satisfaction will occur over point over time. And this all will be checked from customer point of view, whether he has received the goods or services or not. Now the criteria here is control, whether the control for the promised goods or services have been transferred or not. First of all, what we will check, company has right to payment of assets. What we will check, company has the right to payment of asset or not. If you have right for the payment, then it means you have transferred the control. Then whether you have transferred the legal title of the asset to your customer, then again you have transferred the control. If you have transferred the physical possession of the asset, then again you have transferred the control. If you have transferred significant risk and rewards, now this I will elaborate with two examples. This I will elaborate with two examples. Let's assume you have a construction company and the one person, say Mr. X, have contracted with you to buy a plot from you for which he has just made you the token payment, which is say 5%. And there is a possibility that that person may get any better option from somewhere else. In that case, he may be agree to forego that 5% and will cancel the contract with you. Here, significant risk and rewards are not transferred. On the other side, let's assume he has paid 5 installments out of 10. Here, significant risk and rewards are transferred. Here, he may not go, even though he may have got some other good option. He will not cancel the contract, because in the form of cancellation of contract, he may lose a lot of amount. Then the last case is your customer has accepted the asset which you have provided to him. In that case, control will be transferred and the performance obligation has been satisfied. Once your performance obligation have been satisfied, you will recognize your revenue in your books of accounts. So as I discussed earlier, it could be at a specific point of time, or it could be over a series of point of time. When it is over a period of time, what are the possibilities in series case? First case is customer receives and consumes the benefits when sellers performs. Let's assume I already discussed with you the example regarding your cleaning services. So when you have performed the service, the customer received and consumed, control is passed. Then second case is customer has a control of the asset where it is created or enhanced. It is construction of building at customer land. Then, like the one construction company has made a contract with the customer to build a villa on his premises. In that case, what is happening, that it is created at where? At customer's premises. So once you have done some construction, the control transfer to your customer. Then there is a possibility that company does not have any alternative use of asset created or enhanced. It is created for specifically for that particular client. Customized thing is, and you have enforceable right for the payment. In that case, control will be transferred. Now, how you will present in your financial statements, there are 4 steps we have to follow. First of all, we will determine or calculate the overall profit or loss. In second step, we will determine the progress of the contract. And in third step, we will check how to present the things in your statement of financial position. And in last case, we will check how to present the things in your, in third case, in statement of profit and loss, and in fourth case, in statement of financial position. First of all, in step 1, how we will calculate the overall profit or loss. That is contract price minus cost of contract, which is a sum of 2 things, cost incurred to date and estimated cost of completion. You will subtract these 2 things, then you will check whether there is a profit or not. Now, keep in mind, if there is a loss at any stage, you will recognize it immediately. But if it is profit, it will be recognized. This is on point when you have a series of large contracts. Those are supposed to be performed on a longer time period. Then your profits will be recognized according to the stage of completion. How to check stage of completion? There are 2 methods. One is called input method. It is also called cost to cost method. It is also called cost to cost method. How we will do this? It is based on the inputs used. It is calculated at what your total contract cost and to date divided by total expected costs. So cost incurred to date divided by total expected cost, you will calculate the stage of completion, progress of the contract. On the other side, under output method, it is based on the value of the work certified and total contract price. If we can, revenue is earned equally over the time, then you will allocate it on the basis of straight line basis. Then there is a possibility where you cannot ascertain the price of the contract, where you cannot ascertain the progress or stage of completion of the contract. In that case, it will be recognized only to the extent of the contract cost. Then presentation and statement of profit and loss. Total price multiplied by stage of completion minus revenue recognized in previous period. Then you will subtract from the cost of sales, which is total cost times stage of completion minus cost charged in the previous period. Then the remaining figure would be your profit. But again, I'm reiterating, if it is loss, it will be recognized immediately. Then how it will be presented in your statement of financial position? At the year end, you may have either contract asset or liability, which will be recorded as current asset or current liability. How you will recognize that? Cost incurred to date plus profit to date if you have any, minus loss to date if you have any, less amount billed to date, then the remaining figure would be your either accounts receivable, either contract asset, or either contract liability. So it could be either asset or liability. Then let's discuss 2 special cases about the contract. One is contract with the right of return. When you have a variable consideration and contract have some then from your total consideration, you will exclude the consideration which is related to the product expected to be returned or amount expected to be refunded. So here it is best estimate which you can uh, do by having your past experience. So from your best estimate, you will subtract the amount of uh, your refund, and the remaining you will recognize for your goods and services revenue. The second case is about consigned goods. If you have sent the goods on consignment, what is the consignment agreement? It is an agreement between two parties, between consigner and consignee, where one party is uh, like giving the goods to the other party who is working as being an agent, who is your distributor. He is working as being your agent. So these would be the goods part of your consigner, even though he has physically transferred the goods to the consignee, until future event will not occur. What is that event? When consignee have sold goods to third party. Because control is not passed to the consignee, so consigner will not recognize as revenue at the time of shipment or delivery, but it will recognize the revenue when consignee will sold the goods to the other party. One point, consignor recognizes the revenue for the entire selling price for which the consignee sold the goods. Even this is from consigner point of view, including the commission he is supposed to pay to consignee, but he will recognize the revenue at the whole price. And consignee revenue is only what the commission he is getting against the services which he has given to consignor. So consignor could not recognize the revenue when he has physically transferred the goods, but will recognize the revenue when consignee has sold the goods to whom? To the actual buyer, to the actual client, because he is working only as being an agent. Let's discuss some past exam questions. Allen Construction signed a 48 million contract on September 1st, 2004 with the city of Springfield to construct a tunnel under Maple River. On that date, estimated cost to complete the tunnel, which was to be completed by June 2007, was 36 million. Allen's fiscal year ends November 30th, and the companies recognize revenue on contract over time using the cost to cost method. So it is about input method. During regarding the tunnel contract, which was begun December 1st, 2004, are as follow. Data regarding this is as at November 30th, 2005, 2006, actual cost to date, estimated cost to complete, progress billing to date, cash collected to date. The gross profit and loss recognized for the fiscal year ended 30th November 2005 from the tunnel contract using the cost to cost method is. Now this is for first year, how much you will recognize as being a revenue. So here we will calculate first of all stage of completion, which is cost incurred to date divided by total cost. Cost incurred to date is 12,000 and total cost is 12,000 plus 24,000 multiplied by 100%, 100 equal to 33.33%, or which is like 1/3. Okay. Now the other how we will do the calculations? Yes, it is 33.33%. So the revenue which we will recognize till to date, that should be 33%. So what is the amount of the contract? That is 48 million. So 48 divided by 3 equals to 16 million. So revenue will be recognized 16 million. But before that, we will check whether it is overall profitable or loss making contract. So 48 minus 36, it is 12 million profitable. So your revenue would be 16 million, which you will recognize because overall it is profitable, and cost is 12 million. So your overall profit till to date should be 4 million because it is first year. So all 4 million you will recognize. You don't have deduction for previous accounting period. Then under ASC 606, recognition of revenue does not occur until these are the 4 options. Out of these 4 options, one is your answer. Performance obligation is satisfied and it is probable that the company will be able to collect substantially all of the consideration that is entitled to receive for the goods or services that will be transferred to the customer under a valid contract. Cash is collected, performance obligation has been satisfied, our entity has signed a binding contract. So from those 5 criteria, recognition will be done when performance obligation is satisfied. And in our first condition, we have discussed that collection of money is probable, and there must be element of consideration. So your answer is option A. Then we have another question. ABC company operate a catering services that specializes in business luncheons for large corporations. ABC requires customer to place these orders 2 weeks in advance for the scheduled event. ABC bill its customers on the 10th day of the month following the date of the service and requires that the payment be made within 30 days of the billing date. Conceptually, ABC should recognize revenue from its catering services at the date when number 1, customer payment is received. No, this is not a criteria. Customer place an order, not a criteria. Luncheon is served. Once your service is served, it means you have satisfied the performance obligation. So at there, the 5th point will be met and you will recognize your revenue. Billing is made. No, option C is the right answer. Then practice of recording consideration received from customer before the performance obligation in the contract has been satisfied as a contract liability is an example of applying the revenue recognition principle. Now here what happened that you don't have satisfied all your performance obligations and you received money, it is received in advance. So your revenue recognition 5 steps model is not recognized till date, and due to that you have recognized as a contract liability. So this is option A, not monetary units assumption, going concern assumption, or historic cost principle. Now let's discuss the last question. This is again the same question which we have discussed first, but the requirement is different. Assume till this point cash collected to date data is same. Assume that the estimated cost to complete at November 30th, 2006 were 20th million rather than 10 million shown in the given table. So this is change. Cost, like cost to complete is 20 million. Previously, it is 10 million mentioned here. In that case, what you will check whether there is a profit or loss, which is the first step. So your cost incurred to date is 30,000 plus cost to complete is 20,000. So it is overall 50,000 and your contract price is 48 million, you are bearing loss of 2 million, which you will recognize immediately, because when there is a loss, you will recognize it immediately. So your option B is the right answer. Thank you very much for your, sorry, there is a one other question, which is DEF is the consignee for 1000 units of product X for ABC company. ABC should recognize the revenue from these 1000 units when. Now, criteria is for consignment when consignee sold goods to the actual buyer. When DEF sell the goods and inform ABC for sale, now ABC will recognize as revenue. So your option B is the right answer. Thank you very much for your time. I believe you may have enjoyed my lecture. See you next time with the new topic. Thank you very much.